1 week season, fam. La Familia, welcome back. Week 2 DFS Labs Fanduel edition. My name is Mike Johnson, M Johnson 86, as I'm known in those DFS and best ball streets. I'm coming to you today with my microphone on. You can see JM has put me in the padded room after the craziness of last week, talking to myself for the first 3 minutes. Hopefully we have some repeat subscribers and viewers. Didn't drive all of you away with that nonsense to begin last week, but I digress. Anyways, we are here once again to build a lineup for you for FanDuel for the week ahead. Week 2, it is its own animal in and of itself. Week 1, of course, there's a lot going on. There's so much anticipation. The contests are out for over a month, and week 2 is where we hit the gas. We got to turn around quickly. We have to take that information from week 1, decide what is real, what is not, try to parse through everything. And from a strategic standpoint, game theory, and just from an overall, testing your biases, testing your assumptions, which things do you think, do you have that confirmation bias from that you were proven right on, and were you actually proven right, or was it just the right situation to prove your assumptions correctly, and on the flip side of that as well. So with all that said, week 2, super interesting. One of my favorite weeks of the year because there's just so much to get into, and I always find it amusing, the panic, the victory laps, and everything that comes with it. So with that said, I'll bring my esteemed co-host on. Maximus, welcome back.
Hello, good sir.
Good to have you back. How was your week 1?
It was great. You were just mentioning week 2s. The last 2 years, my week 1s have been really good. I did put some teams into the no sweat tournament that we had talked about last week, but I also played my 5-entry max NFL touchdown tournament on FanDuel, and was a George Kittle in-game injury away from probably a first and third place based on the numbers, but 4 of my 5 entries placed from 11th, 13th, 20th, and 40th, I think. Four out of the 5 teams. So a solid, start to the year. I'll take it. But onward, we look to week 2 and look forward to digging into it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, 4 out of 5, that's really good. And so that's where keeping your, looking at your contest selection, looking at, for anyone that plays, having a big picture, and, you play that contest every week. And so it's a 5 max contest. It pays roughly 20% of the field. So you should, if you're doing things correctly, you should kind of average you should have roughly 1 contest placing a week. Those weeks where you get 2, 3, or 4, like this week, that's awesome because kind of carries the water for you, for multiple weeks, and kind of, you can sustain that bankroll, and it's really nice. So that's awesome, but also just kind of having a consistent process. That's one of the things I kind of respect about you. I degen more often than I'd like to admit myself, and I'm throwing more into certain tournaments and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think for, most viewers and most people who are doing this, I think finding that sort of consistent process like you have, it allows you to play well because you don't feel like extra pressure. And it kind of, it allows you to enjoy it too, I would think. I know, obviously the Kittle injury can tilt you, or anyone, but your emotions can stay in check a little bit more when you're playing within yourself and you're within that process. Whereas if something like that happens to someone when they're out over their skis, you can really turn negative pretty quickly. So with all that said, I know you wanted to talk about one. Let me pull up my screen. I know you wanted to talk about one contest FanDuel is offering this week. So I'll let you go ahead and pump that a little bit.
And in defense of you, you have a lot more on your plate than I do within this community. and you're much more multifaceted, obviously playing on different platforms. And so it's harder to strike a balance there of consistency across the whole platform. And, I'm kind of maybe a niche trying to be a master or a master of one, but a jack of none. I don't know. However, but
I know what you're saying. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, there's another good tournament offer for week 2 here on Fanduel.
I've got it pulled up.
Oh, do you? Okay. So I actually had it off my screen. So yeah, it's 50% of the field gets paid. It's a 20 entry max. So there's only a certain amount of teams. You're not in that, this person built 150. Not that that's necessarily an indicator if you build better teams and less of them. But 20 entry max, even playing field, if you max it. There's 67,500 spots available. So that opens the door of possible overlay. And a pretty good first place prize there at $4 a team of $40,000 up top. I haven't looked at what percentage of it's 50%, of course, as far as that goes. But another good offering from FanDuel that I think this one's a lot easier to max out. And 20 as opposed to 150, you can kind of consolidate your thoughts and your process a little more with that amount as opposed to super large field, at least in my opinion, trying to do large field. I'm more of a field guy. But I think it's a really fun deal. I write about it a little bit in my article this week to kind of start things off with this tournament offering. And I know we're building for another tournament, though, that you had mentioned to me off air that I'll throw the baton back to you on.
Yeah, so real quick on this, the Sunday NFL Snap, $300,000 guaranteed, 50% of the field gets paid. So there's 67,500 entries total, but 33,925 get paid. So, half the field, and then the total. So it's guaranteed overlay as well. So there's $300,000 in prizes, but they will only collect $270,000 in entry fees. So there's 10% of their prize pool is overlay. So it's like a lot of things that add value there, and obviously, like, you can get your money back, you can get a good sweat. So a good experience, and for those people who, it's good value for those of us who play often and getting more shots on goal and more chances at a big payday, but also for maybe some newer people, either newer to DFS or just newer to FanDuel. You can get a lot of experience there. You can build 20 different lineups and kind of, there's no substitute for that, for getting, just those reps. I talk about that a lot, whether it's in DFS or best ball. So something to consider there. Really high value tournament. Highly recommend you play that. And it's relatively cheap, so you don't have to stress out too much. The one we'll be building for today, it is the $55 tournament on FanDuel. It is the Sunday NFL Bomb. The Bomb is $250,000 prize pool, $50,000 to first. The structure, it's only $1,000 to 9th and 10th place, so it's a pretty steep fall off there. But there's only 5,347 entries if it fills, which it basically does every week. I bring this one up because last week they had their Sunday Million. It was the no sweat tournament. You could see on here I have $620 in bonus cash. That is from they gave you back in bonus cash your entries that did not cash. So I had about 45 entries that cashed, and then got 520 back in bonus cash from that. They also had a promo that I didn't even realize until I got it. But if you played over $500 in volume, you got $100 in bonus cash as well. The caveat with that is that bonus cash expires in 7 days. So make sure if you played last week, if you have that bonus cash sitting there, don't fall asleep at the wheel and then get to, even if you've got stuff going on this week, find a way to get that bonus cash into play so that you don't just lose it for nothing. We're going to build for this tournament this week because I think that this one, if you do have a bunch of bonus cash sitting there, it's a good one to put that towards And maybe there's some of you who normally wouldn't go to that entry fee, but you can quickly, you have that money that you allocated from last week that okay, you get it back, but now you've got to put it back into play. Each entry that you cash with will get you at least $100 for a min cash, and it does pay about 20% of the prize pool. So overall, good structure. Gives you, if you're someone who doesn't normally play on FanDuel or play at the volume that maybe you did because of that promo week one, this gives you a reasonable chance. You look at the prize or the size of the field, just over 5,000 people. It's like a manageable field. It's not the total lottery that the Sunday Million was last week with 650,000 people or whatever it was. So with all of that said, that's what we're building for. And I'm going to throw it back to you and let you get us started with this lineup.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of good deals going on here this week for sure. So you asked me last week with our practice build or with the roster that we did, was I going to correlate it with some of the player pricing that I had mentioned in my article that had not come out yet. And I actually did not do that last week. This week, however, it does happen to correlate with some of what I've seen and have written up to this point. So we're going to go ahead and start with a team which it will be their home opener this week. A very respectful showing in week one. A couple dropped passes away from a major upset against the defending Super Bowl champions. So we're going to go to Big D. I'm going to start with Dak Prescott at quarterback at $7,300. Very fair price. I think his overall statistics don't really tell the whole story of how efficiently he played in a week one. 34 pass attempts. We continue to expect, I know Javonte got those 2 rushing touchdowns, but we expect the Cowboys to be on the pass heavier side of the offense this season overall. And another interesting statistic I actually just found before we went on the airs, I guess Dak Prescott is 4-0 after week one losses historically in his career, which didn't know that until the last minute of where I'd already made the decision to start with him. But we're going to pair him, and this definitely falls in the value bucket, with George Pickens at $6,000. He is $2,700 separated from his teammate CeeDee Lamb. And, the Cowboys have had some extended time to maybe work on some things chemistry-wise with Pickens. Also rest as well, playing on the Thursday night in the prior week. No doubt that CeeDee Lamb will be looking to avenge his drops, I'm sure, as well. But $8,700 for CeeDee and $6,000 for Pickens leaves a lot of salary to be a balanced team in other areas. And then I guess starting with Dak and Pickens, I would kind of throw it back to you because I think there's 3 doors we can go down. We could attach Jake Ferguson as a double stack on this, and or maybe bring back with Malik Neighbors on this team. My only feature with Neighbors is there's other wide receivers at the same price point as him that I prefer on better teams and in better spots this week. But I'll just start it with Dak and Pickens in this case, and then I'll throw it back to you with these other ideas in mind.
Yeah, so I think that so I like where your head's at. I did think Dak played really well. And that is the Eagles, obviously they lost Jalen Carter right at the start of that game. They didn't lose him. They never had him based on how that happened. But yeah, I think that that's about as tough of a matchup as you're going to get. The Cowboys, Javonte had the 2 1-yard rushing touchdowns, which obviously makes people who drafted Javonte feel pretty good and all that. But they still, they were averaging under 4 yards a carry against the Eagles without Jalen Carter. Pickens, he drew a long pass interference penalty. He was targeted only 4 times, but CeeDee Lamb kind of was dominating the targets there. But we know what we're getting into with Pickens. He's going to be a volatile player week to week. And this is the best offense and the best quarterback he has played with in his career. So yeah, I like that call there. And it's somewhat loose pricing, but it's not like week one. Some things are already starting to adjust in a big way. So I like that. And, I wasn't overly impressed. I guess that's an understatement. The Giants offense was kind of a train wreck in week one. So I don't want to force things there. I also don't want to, I guess I don't want to put a bring back in right now. I don't want to put a Giants player in right now. We'll see if it makes sense as the lineup goes on, if we get to a point where adding one makes sense. And I don't know that we need to add Ferguson either. I think that we know CeeDee Lamb's going to be heavily involved, like in some way, shape, or form. So if we're going to go with Pickens, if Pickens is having a big game and Lamb, he has a relatively high floor of what he can produce anyways. I don't know that we need to force Ferguson either. And I think, again, like that, maybe we go to it later, but right now I don't think we need to. So I guess we'll move to running back. I'll throw a couple running backs in there. I don't think either of these are like way off the board, but I think it kind of sets the stage here. Christian McCaffrey, I think him and Travis Etienne will be heavily owned, but I'm not worried about that. I just think that both situations just project really well. The Bengals defense, we didn't think very highly of them coming into the season, but also, they looked okay against the Browns, but also the Browns didn't really have much of a running game. Travis Etienne looked really good. And then, of course, they traded Tank Bigsby. And then CMC, he had the 31-touch game against the Seahawks. Now he's playing in the Dome against New Orleans. Kittle is out. Looks like they might have Juwan Jennings back, which I actually kind of like for McCaffrey. If Jennings was going to be for sure out as well, I think that could be a little dicey. Brock Purdy's status obviously is up in the air as well. But yeah, I want to start with those two and kind of just give ourselves a base, and we can kind of play with it from there. What do you think?
Yeah, Travis Etienne's actually in my article this week for the running back position. I mean, when we were drafting best ball, we were wondering, kind of drafted all three of the guys, Bigsby, Tootin, Etienne, which of the cream is going to rise to the top, and Bigsby being shipped off to the Eagles, and Etienne just having a great showing in week one, kind of looked like 2023 Etienne, and I think he had a total of 143 rushing yards on 16 carries. We know he's a pass catching running back. 6,700 is definitely underpriced now, knowing on top of it that Bigsby has been shipped off to another team. So yeah, I like the ETN. I also like the Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, we'll have to monitor Brock Purdy, but C-Mac is going to be involved no matter what.
Yeah, and I think, I think, even if Purdy misses, I think Mac Jones. I mean, we've seen it. Like, we've just seen the Shanahan offense. Like, Mac Jones, like, he's been the butt of a lot of jokes, but like, he's serviceable. Like, he can play within the system, right? Even when they drafted Trey Lance, like, Shanahan really loved Mac Jones in that draft. And you could make jokes about that as well, that Trey Lance and Mac Jones were the guys he had his eye on. But, bottom line is I think the offense will be okay, especially against New Orleans, who, they weren't awful in week one, but I'm not too concerned about them. And then the one other guy I want to add before we fill out the rest of the roster, Tyler Warren, 5,500 for the Colts. He had 3 targets, 3 catches for like 43 yards on their opening drive. Ended the game with 9 targets. He had 7 catches for 76 yards. Didn't score. And, kind of usage dwindled just because the Dolphins were so bad. But he also had a rushing attempt for 3 yards, which there's like a little value there. At some point, he'll probably score a rushing touchdown this year. He's only 5,500, and really with Kittle out, Bauer's not on the slate, but possibly injured. Like Warren, basically, in my mind, is a top 3 tight end at this point right now. And he plays at home against the Broncos, who will be a much tougher defensive test. But you look at what they're good at; they're elite run defense. They have an elite secondary. So I think Warren, like he should be. I don't know. I would expect the Indy offense to not have as much success week 2 as they did week 1, but I think that the success they find is going to be through, their newfound stud here.
Yeah, I like that call. Tyler Warren, very athletic tight end, and definitely have a good amount of him in best ball. So yeah, I'm down with that call at tight end. I would make an honorable mention for Juwan Johnson as well if we wanted to do a skinny stack with C-Mac. Juwan Johnson had 8 catches on 11 targets last week. We know that Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill are both on the PUP list through week 4. And Juwan signed a big contract by his standards prior to the season, a lot of guaranteed money. So and against the 49ers team that's so depleted on offense. And to your point, they did, hang in there with the Cardinals last week. He could be another guy at $5,000, right around similar range as Warren to maybe account for. But I'm completely fine with Warren there. Daniel Jones, especially against the Denver defense, is probably going to have to do those drop-offs to Warren. So he'll be good for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Johnson as well. All right, so I'll throw it to you then. Wide receiver, flex, or should we kind of mutually talk about a defense, and then we have a kind of a better idea what kind of salary we're working with for these last 3?
Sure.
Is there anything standing out to you?
Yeah, there's not a lot actually standing out to me defense-wise. Maybe we just need to learn more as we're only in week 2. But on the face of it, I would say maybe we plug in the Arizona Cardinals. They have their home opener against the Carolina Panthers at $3,900. Kind of a mid-range, kind of in the middle there. Sometimes price-wise, maybe that can – I'm not sure how highly – they could be highly owned, I guess. Carolina looks like they're still – having to figure it out after the departure of Thielen and kind of.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to, we can just throw them in there for now. And if we want to adjust later to kind of fit someone else in, that's fine. But let's just go with them for now. And then I'll let you, the world is your oyster, 7,200 per slot left. So you can go with a value guy. You can go with another stud that you like. A lot of ways you can go, and it doesn't like hamstring the rest of the roster. So wide receiver or flex, I'll throw it to you for whoever you like.
Let's do a wide receiver skinny stack here, and let's go to, although we do we already have him? Yeah, we already have him in there.
Who's
Cincinnati and Jacksonville, based on that price point that we have left. T. Higgins and Brian Thomas Jr. are both in that range. If we wanted to do a bit of an overstack of that game, not really imposing defenses on either side. Definitely could be some offensive fireworks in this one, as both teams have a week under their belt. And so that could be one route based on that price range, and leave us some healthy salary to throw it back to you with the flex spot if you wanted to go that way.
Yeah, I like that. And I do like so 2 things. I like the idea here of making that correlated bet with, we've got ETN, we've got Brian Thomas Jr., we've got T. Higgins. So we're kind of betting on this game as a whole. But I think that people often, they try to just do the skinny stack. And so I think that, there are paths to where ETN and Brian Thomas Jr. are the clear. You look at Liam Cohen, right? Was with the Buccaneers. So you look at last year, this is the Bucky Irving, Mike Evans duo to end the season. And this contest, especially that we're building for, like it's 5,300 entries. So it's not like small. It's not like your 400 person entry, but it's not huge. It's not enormous. So, if those two can combine for 40, 45 points as a player block, a lot of value there. And then obviously if they're doing that, you've got the Bengals. I think T. Higgins at the end of last season, week 17 or whatever, he had like that 40-point game. So we know he has just this massive upside, this massive ceiling. And I think that a lot of people there, if you're building this lineup, you might be, they might be, there's still some value options available on the table. So they might want to go to Jamar Chase up at 9K. And I think, pairing T with those two kind of gives us a nice ceiling and kind of fits pretty nicely. So I'm good with that. And I think it plays into the rest of the roster really nicely. So now it becomes, do we want to stick with the Cardinals defense? Do we want to go down for a cheaper defense to get up to someone in that 7K range above? Or do we want to, so this would be like, an option we could have here is we could play Neighbors with that Dak stack. And then on defense, we could go with the Titans at 3,200. The Titans, they are a team I'm pretty interested in this week. I think their defense is really, really good. I mentioned this already in my Fantasy Fallout podcast, but on Twitter, there's been people talking about how Bo Nix, sophomore slump, he played poorly. He looked bad against the Titans. The Titans suck. What's he doing? But I think their defense could actually be pretty good. And this is their home opener. The crowd should be pretty juiced up with Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. And, the Rams offense, I like the Rams offensive pieces. I really Puka looked like a monster. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. I think Adams, he had like a 28% target share. Putting him with Matthew Stafford, he's going to have some really nice games. But also for dirt cheap at home, I think this could be an interesting spot for them. So that would be a nice way to kind of round this out and get Neighbors into, like I talked about at the start, it's a way we can fit him in there, but we don't feel like we forced him in there. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make a lot of times, is thinking okay, I have to build this stack and now I'm going to do the bring back and now I do the rest of it. Whereas this way we kind of got here organically.
Yeah, I like the Titans defense too. I think there's going to be definitely a degree of confidence. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with the Broncos in Denver, and the defense played really well. And I don't think many people saw that coming in week 1. I'm sure the thought was that Denver was going to steamroll them, and they hung in there very respectfully. And I think they'll have that confidence going in with their home opener now. So, yeah, I like that. And then, of course, we have the 2 game environments with Dallas and New York and Jacksonville and the Bengals. If you did want to stay with the Cardinals defense, though, the world is your oyster.
I was just going to ask you that. What do you got if we stayed with the Cardinals?
The world is our oyster, even at the 7,000 mark. We could do Cortland Sutton and pair him with Tyler Warren for that game environment. That's one route we could go. Alvin Kamara is at 7,000 at home as well. You have Trey McBride that, was kind of in that price range as well. So a lot of good options. I mean, Trey McBride's another one where I'm sure he's going to project to definitely the scheme sets up well for him playing Carolina as well as MHJ for that matter, I think, for week 2. So, any of those routes I think would be viable in the flex spot there if we stayed with the Cardinals. But for the purpose of the audio, and if we want to settle on one, I'll let you be the final decider if you want to door number 1 with the Titans defense and Neighbors, or door number 2 with the Cardinals and either Sutton or McBride maybe.
Yeah. So with Sutton, to the kind of theme we've had here today, just with giving it some, like, not forcing the neighbors, not forcing the bring back. I think that this is one as well where, like, I don't know that, like, I don't see Denver as being a spot where they're going to, like, their defense is so good. I have so much respect for them. I don't see them as like a shootout type team. So they're not necessarily a team where, like, you can play Sutton and Warren together, but it's more like, do I individually like both of them? And as opposed to, like, I think this game is going to shoot out. We have Alvin Kamara there who he scored a touchdown in week 1. You could play him, kind of the same thing with Christian McCaffrey, but, like, I don't know. Like, I think that, they had Kendry Miller and Devin Neal both getting some snaps last week in a game that was relatively, like, it was competitive. It wasn't like a runaway by any means, and it wasn't like they were blown out, like they had a chance late. He still played like 75% of the snaps, but this isn't the Alvin Kamara, like, dominant workload situation either. And I think the Niners defense is pretty good. I do like the Trey McBride call. I think that he's probably going to have some success. We saw once again, he is like a focal point. He had 9 targets in week 1, caught 6 for 61. Kind of want to be ahead of that. But there's a lot of options here.
There is. And you know what, though? I do like your neighbor's call from this perspective. If we're betting on Dak and Pickens, neighbors would tell the story of elevating that game to be competitive enough to validate the start of the build in the first place. So, so I do like the neighbors from the perspective of the story we're trying to tell from how we started the build.
Yeah, I like that. So let's go with that. And then the Titans defense, who I am high on, like I said, and early in the season, especially, like, if there's a spot like this where you could feel somewhat confident for a cheap defense, like, there's a lot of defenses that, like, are pretty good that are cheap right now that you could throw in there. I like the Seahawks this week as well. I really like their defense. I think they're extremely well coached. They've got talent. They did a nice job. They lost to the 49ers, but they, San Francisco had to work for everything last week. So that's another cheap defense. This week playing Aaron Rodgers, who, yes, he looked really good last week, but I've talked about this in multiple spots already this week. Like, that could be a function of, like, maybe this Jets defense is a major work in progress. So I like getting neighbors and then paying down at defense there. And I do think, I would think Arizona will be a little bit higher ownership. So, really what this comes down to is we're telling a couple stories. It's basically neighbors is, he's getting things together. He's connecting, making some big plays. Last week we saw the Dallas defense did all right against the Eagles, but they played like soft zone. They just kind of sat back, and Jalen Hurts, Philly basically just ran it or threw like these short little dump offs the whole game, and kind of forced them to matriculate it down the field, which Philly's perfectly content doing. So there's 2 ways this could go. Neighbors could have a big play that sparks Dallas, or also, Dallas could have some success, and the Giants are going to have to take the lid off where Philly didn't. So we've got that story, and then obviously the Cincinnati-Jacksonville story. And then just 2 really strong bets, like players that I think are like at the top of their position right now, in Christian McCaffrey and Tyler Warren, kind of as individually like really strong plays. So again, building for the contest you're in, not a lot has to really kind of come together. I love this lineup.
Yeah, I do too. And when you put up neighbors' stats there, 12 targets. I mean, he's getting targeted no matter what. agnostic of game flow. I mean, Russell Wilson, we know, can throw the deep ball. One other quick note, I believe that the Giants lost Micah McFadden, too, for a while with a foot injury sustained in week 1. So that may affect the pass rush a little bit, I would think, for for Dak just being able to get in the groove and have even maybe a more smoother flow to the passing offense for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like the week 1, we didn't really see what does this Dallas or defense look like, pass defense look like without Micah Parsons. They never really had to get tested last week. The Eagles didn't really feel the need to, and Russell Wilson, the Giants offense looked pretty bad against Washington, the Commanders, but also that's a team that went to the NFC title game last year. That's a team that Dan Quinn, their head coach, he can be a pretty aggressive. He got Russell Wilson off his spots. He had him dropping his eyes. Wilson was really struggling in that game. So Wilson could look very different in this game if he's able to sit back there and be comfortable against this Dallas defense without Micah Parsons. So again, people might be overreacting to week 1 results and the fact that Dallas was able to they looked like they were, the loss of Parsons was not going to, destroy them, or wasn't going to be they can still be really good, or they could be at least average to above average. But we don't know that. And every game, the specific matchups kind of come into play. So for those listening on the podcast feeds, a quick rundown of the final roster. We've got Dak Prescott at quarterback, running backs Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne Jr., wide receivers George Pickens, T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr., and Malik Neighbors. 4 very talented and high ceiling players there. At tight end, we have Tyler Warren, and then Tennessee Titans defense at 3,200 to round it out. So, do you have any parting thoughts before we let the people go?
Yeah, take advantage of the possible recency bias, people, with what we were just mentioning with Russell Wilson and how the Giants may play different or look different in week 2. A lot of question marks to still be answered. And yeah, I like this team too. Plug it in and we'll see what happens. Take it from there.
Absolutely. So with that, there you have it. FanDuel, check it out. Check us out at oneweekseason.com. Oh, before we go, I also want to bring up, we do have a special this week going on. Our props package, week 1, they went 5-2. You can get a week 2 pass for only $9 if you use code PROPS9. So then you could get the pass to their bets that they make for throughout the NFL week. Thursday through Monday games, they usually have 1 or 2 bets for Thursday or Monday, and then a few for Sunday. But they went 5-2 this week, a really nice ROI. Usually it's $19 a week. This week, only $9 again if you use code PROPS9. Kind of a nice way to, with DFS, that's the thing. You make some of these, you might have certain players that you have stronger takes on than others, and you could be right on them. But if the whole lineup doesn't come together or one guy gets hurt, can kind of fall apart on you. So the props teams, Andamir, Jay Reezy, all the guys over there, they kill it. They're working tirelessly, and they've had some really good ones already, and looking for that to continue into week 2. So check that out if you haven't already. Again, oneweekseason.com. My name is Mike Johnson, mjohnson86. He is Maximus, our boy, Steve Kleisath. 4 out of 5 entries cashing in his main tournament last week. He's going to keep the hot streak going, and hopefully you guys will as well. Thanks for joining us. We will see you all next week. Peace.
1 week season.